Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And boy, oh boy, we have an episode for you guys here today that you definitely want to stick around for. So make sure you're going to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, excuse me, as all of you are fully aware, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Kobe Bryant is easily one of the most hated on and disrespected NBA players of all time, especially by people in the media. Just because Kobe didn't have a suck it up in your face kind of attitude, he didn't have a bubbly attitude, he wasn't always smiling and kissing your butt, a lot of people held that against him. It was something that Jeff Van Gundy once called out during a live game. I think he was calling that game of Mark Jackson when Kobe Bryant was in the playoffs, and he essentially called these people a joke. That's what Jeff Van Gundy said, right? Because Kobe didn't have that type of personality, people simply didn't like him, and it showed in the MVP voting. And that's one of the reasons why you can have a situation in which Kobe Bryant was in the league, and you had people like Steve Nash winning the MVP over Kobe Bryant. We all know that Kobe should have finished his career with at least 3 regular season MVPs, but because of the politics and because they were just like, yo, we're not going to give it up to this dude because we don't like him. We can't hate on his game. But we're just not going to give it up to him. And what I noticed was people always looked for reasons to not give Kobe MVPs, even with the year he won. And they would always find reasons for people that they liked to win MVPs, even when they didn't deserve it. And they started off narratives. They were going to season. Do you think this guy will be an MVP? They never did that with Kobe, right? So Kobe, in my personal opinion, and I think in the opinion of many, was one of the most hated on players. And I'll argue this with anybody out there if you want to debate that. I don't even think this is up for discussion. Now, this morning, was doing some research this morning, and I was scrolling through our messages on our Instagram account. For those of you who are not following us on Instagram, make sure you follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Dreamerspro. And one of our viewers sent us a video on Instagram this morning to watch, and his name is, I said I'm going to shout him out, I'm going to shout you out right now. His name is Rudy Lamo, and I actually think he's one of our viewers. I think he's he's from Canada, when I looked at his profile. And basically what he asked me to do was, he said, please, can you watch this video? Because it seems like as if ESPN is back at it again, trying to find ways to knock Kobe. So I watched the video, and basically the video was highlighting the career of Pau Gasol, who just actually recently found out that he's going to be getting his jersey retired by the Los Angeles Lakers. And as I was watching the video, I began to notice that they were trying to paint Pau in a picture that made him seem larger than life. They were trying to depict him as some player that was greater than actually what he is. And I think they were doing this to make it seem like what Kobe did during his time with Pau wasn't really all that impressive. So for those of you who missed this video, this audio of them discussing Pau Gasol, take a listen to that here, and then we're going to come back and react to it. Take a listen to that.
The Los Angeles Lakers are retiring Pau Gasol's number 16 jersey in a ceremony on March 7th. Guys, I got to say something about Pau. I don't think people understand, even the ones that say, no, I know he was really good, how great he was. Pau Gasol, for a number of years, was a top half dozen or so player in the league for a number of years. Like, you could even maybe argue top 5. There were years where Dirk's shot, I get it, guys like that, guys who put up the scoring numbers and who can be the lead dog on a championship team, you give him the nod, of course. But Pau was like, it's not an accident that Kobe, the 2 he got, and the 3 finals trips he made without Shaq were with Pau. There's a reason that the Lakers acquired that dude for Kobe. He was the perfect complementary big for Kobe and a truly great player for a number of years. And I think as the second best player by far on 2 championship teams, he deserves to have his number retired. Key, you're a big Lakers fan. Where are you with it?
Originally, when it first came across last night, I had to think about it. So I had to reach out to a bunch of my Laker compadres and kind of convince myself of it. Because I was like, because at first I didn't realize, I forgot that Big Game James had got his jersey retired because we really never talk about his retirement, his jersey being retired. And I was like, I don't know about Powell. And then we had to go through it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so, because he's the last one of the pre-LeBron James championship players that probably deserves for this to happen. I mean, he was, like you said, he was the second guy to the other championships, but a good second guy. It wasn't a Kobe Bryant carrying the Lakers to 2 championships and no help from Paul Gasol. So, yeah, of course he deserves it. 100%.
Paul was one of the, at the time, the most skilled big in the game, right? I mean, like, he came over with, like, Dirk, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, like that international influence of the game of basketball. Like, he wasn't the biggest international superstar, but the impact that he had on the game and the way he played next to Kobe, it's just, at the time, man, Powell was a special dude. He's a special dude. Like, his skill set just lended perfectly to the system.
Now, the people you were listening to in that soundbite were Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, and Jay Williams. Those are the people you were listening to. Now, if you paid attention to what Max said towards the beginning, he said that Powell was one of the top half a dozen players in the NBA. Well, y'all know a dozen is 12. So half of a dozen means 6. So basically he was saying that Pau Gasol was roughly a top 5 NBA player and certainly a top 10 NBA player. Let me just say this quickly. That's a flat out lie. That is a flat out lie. And for people that have a memory span longer than 2015, we know who the top players in the NBA were. Let me tell you the guys that were playing in the NBA that were actually better than Pau Gasol at that time, around the 2000s. Let me tell you. Kobe Bryant was better than Powell, that's 1. LeBron was better than Powell, that's 2. Dwayne Wade, that's 3. Dirk Nowitzki, that's 4. Tim Duncan, that's 5. Tracy McGrady, that's 6. Paul Pierce, that's 7. Carmelo Anthony, this is obvious, that's 8. Kevin Garnett, that's 9. Allen Iverson, that's 10. Dwight Howard, that's 11. And you can probably say Amari Stoudemire. Pau Gasol was like a top 15 player in the NBA. He wasn't no damn top 5 or top half a dozen player in the NBA at no point in time. Y'all are not going to try to rewrite history just to make it fit whatever narrative you guys are trying to push out there to the audience. That's number 1. Number 2, the first 3 years Pau Gasol was in the playoffs, I believe he got swept. If you go look at Pau Gasol's playoff record when he was with the Memphis Grizzlies, he was a hell of a player, but he only played 4 games. 4 games each year in the playoffs, which essentially means he lost in 4 games, which means that Pau Gasol got swept. It wasn't like as if the Lakers traded for a finals MVP to pair with Kobe Bryant. Pau Gasol had a total combined games of playoff experience of 12 games. That was it. The season that Pau was traded to the Lakers, that season he played 21 games in the playoffs. 21. And they went to the NBA Finals. I believe that was in 2007-2008 season where they lost to the Boston Celtics. That was the first year Pau Gasol ever made it out of the second round. The very first season was the season when he joined Kobe Bryant. Now, Pau was arguably, the most skilled big man in the NBA. Arguably the most skilled big man in the NBA. There's no question about it if you saw Pau Gasol play. But he certainly lacked the mental toughness to go with all of that skill. Pau was considered a finesse big that you could essentially rough up and take out of his game. And it's one of the reasons when you saw Pau Gasol get to the NBA Finals, when he was playing against Kendrick Perkins of ESPN, Kevin Garnett, and these guys, they were totally able to rough him up. And it was one of the reasons Kobe Bryant the following season had to install, literally, or instill, whatever, his rugged mentality into Pau, so Pau would become a nastier player. There were countless times where you would see Kobe shouting at Pau on the court. Like, yo, get it together, play nasty, be mean. You don't have to play like a nice guy with these guys. And the following season and the seasons prior, you saw a change in Pau's game. He became much more aggressive. He would throw elbows with you. He would be banging with guys for rebounds, and he was playing with a lot of heart. He had all the skill in the world, but he didn't have the mental part to go with it, the toughness, and that's something that he was able to get from Kobe. This is not up for discussion. This is the fact of the matter. And if you guys don't believe me, you guys can just go through history. There's always Google and there's always YouTube. These two things are your friends, right? As they say, liars have no proof. All the information is out there for the people that don't know it. Now, that's one point. I have another point that I want to say about ESPN here. None of this really surprises me. None of this really surprises me. There were countless times in the past where ESPN has said a bunch of idiotic nonsense. And this was just the latest example of it. There was another time when ESPN put out one of his player rankings, and ESPN is infamous for having some of the most idiotic player rankings in all of sports. For as big as they are, you would think they would have all the smart, the best basketball minds. And when they put out their player rankings, it's some of the most idiotic gibberish you could ever think out there. And then they have people go up there and debate back and forth about it. Their lists have been so egregious that you've actually had some of their own workers, in this case, Stephen A. Smith, actually call out his own network for putting out stupid lists. And he would basically say, I want to distance myself from this stupidity. That was Stephen A. Smith saying that of his own network. So there was one year where they put out their ranking, and it was so idiotic that it actually caused Kobe Bryant to respond to them. So for those of you who miss what Kobe actually thought about the people working at ESPN, at least in their basketball department, take a listen to what Kobe Bryant had to say about ESPN. These guys giving you all this information back then. Take a listen to that.
5 rebounds. And earlier this morning, ESPN came out with their rankings, ranking Kobe Bryant 40th. You might remember last year they had him at 25th. So what does Kobe think about that? Take a listen.
Kobe, was it motivating to you at all that ESPN ranked you the 40th best player in the league?
Nah, not really.
Okay.
I've known for a long time they're a bunch of idiots.
But you're also been known to use outside motivation to your advantage. Is that a case here?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to use things of motivation that are tend to be in the realm of reality. So,
did it bother you more last year, or they ranked you?
Honestly, all jokes aside, it really doesn't bother me too much. I'm going to do what I do regardless, and God willing, I could stay healthy, and if I wind up proving a lot of people wrong in the process, that will just wind up being collateral damage.
As y'all heard, he said he always knew that they were a bunch of idiots. And it's one of the reasons why in 2020, this same ESPN giving you rankings and talking about who's great and who's not is one of the same reasons why I believe it was in the year 2020, they ranked Zion Williamson. Think about this. They ranked Zion Williamson ahead of Paul George in 2020. That's the same. ESPN did that. Zion Williamson, who hadn't even played 90 games in his NBA career, these jokers said he was better than Paul freaking George. Better than Paul George. Zion Williamson has never even received not one MVP vote. Do y'all know that? Do you know Paul George, there was a year where he finished top 3 in MVP voting and top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year in the same year when he was playing with the Oklahoma City Thunder? Are y'all aware of that fact? Paul George, y'all know Zion Williamson has never even made an All-NBA team of nothing. No All-NBA team or no All-NBA defensive team. And these were the guys that were out here telling us about who's great and who's not. This your ESPN. These are your guys. And actually, before we put out this video, we actually put up a poll on our channel asking people, hey, do you think Pau Gasol at any point in time in the NBA was a top 10 player at all, at any point in time? And with about 800 votes, we put up this poll about 20 minutes ago, about 56% of the people said no. I guarantee you a good amount of those people that said yes, I can almost guarantee you a good amount of those people that said yes are people that either never saw Pau Gasol play, I can almost assure you of that, or the people that wanted to make it seem like, oh, Kobe Bryant was actually playing with some really, really great players, and that's the reason why that's all. Because there's no way in your right mind you would tell me that Pau Gasol, when he was playing in the NBA, he was better than Kobe, Tim Duncan, Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki, Tracy McGrady, Paul Pierce, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, or Allen Iverson. He was not better than none of those dudes. And the results showed. The results actually showed. Those guys before as leaders of their teams, well, let's talk about Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade led his team to an NBA Finals and won Finals MVP. So that's Dwayne. You can't say he's better than Dwayne Wade. Obviously, he's not better than Kobe. Obviously, he's not better than LeBron James. Obviously, he's not better than Tim Duncan. You can go look at his pedigree. Some people will argue he was better than Tracy McGrady. No, he was not under any circumstance. Then he was not better than Paul Pierce. Obviously, he was not better than Carmelo Anthony when he was facing Carmelo Anthony in the Western Conference semifinals and finals. Obviously, he was not better than Kevin Garnett. Obviously, he was not better than Allen Iverson. Obviously, he was not better than Dwight Howard, who he faced in the NBA Finals, who beat LeBron and those boys. The team that the team that LeBron couldn't beat was the Dwight Howard, was the same team that he went and met in the finals. So I don't know how he was ever better than him. The history was there, and then of course we have Amare Stoudemire. But this is just another latest example of them running their spin machine at the expense of one Kobe Bryant. They are masters, these guys, at picking and choosing who they want to make great and who they want to diminish. If they want to make you great, they'll make you seem larger than life. They have an ability to make people that were actually great seem small, and people who are not really that great seem bigger than reality. It's all spin. It's all spin. And we want to thank our viewer for actually sending us this video, because I think it was an excellent video and it really made me think. Pau Gasol was an excellent basketball player, but let's not get carried away here. He was an excellent basketball player. When they pulled off that trade, I was fully aware of it, because the very next game when Pau Gasol joined the Lakers, they played against the New Jersey Nets. The New Jersey Nets, for those of you not aware. When they pulled off that move was considered a heist in the NBA. Why was it considered a heist? Because of the value that was exchanged. The value that was exchanged. It wasn't as if you were getting a top 10 player for another top 10 player. It was considered a heist. Let's cut it out. Pau Gasol was great. Y'all need to stop that. Y'all need to cut it all the way out. Pau Gasol will not even be a top 75 player. Y'all need to stop right now. These are my thoughts and opinions. The question to the audience is, number one, what do you think about what I said? Number two, please help me understand. Was Pau Gasol ever this top 10 NBA player that joined Kobe Bryant and they were somehow on equal footing or even level? They weren't even close. So whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and we catch you all on the next episode. Peace.